Tonight, we will be talking about the recently released files regarding the rock legend Kurt Cobain self-medicating for a stomach ailment based on heroin, either that or possibly deferring his heroin habit onto the stomach ailment. Apparently, details the horrific stomach pain he experienced. He says he was eating always followed by relentless, burning, nauseous pain in the upper part of his stomach lining. Cobain would voluntarily hold a bucket for Doyle to vomit into and often appear to be excited to see the end results of this vomiting. Cobain admired Doyle and his struggle and viewed his sickness as artistic and authentic. On July 23rd, 1993, Cobain suffered another heroin overdose. Second one, here we go. Rather than calling an ambulance, Courtney Love injected Cobain with a naloxone to bring him from unconscious state. Nowadays, it's Suboxone. Prior to performance at the New Music Seminar in New York City on July 23rd, 1993, what a good year, Cobain suffered another heroin overdose. It was like maybe his third, maybe more. Rather than calling for an ambulance, Love injected Cobain with naloxone. Cobain's first experience with heroin occurred sometime in 1986, administered by him by a local drug dealer in Tacoma, Washington. Within his death, and we have some other elements of this. We have some elements that we always look into, of course, as historians, but apparently whenever the coroner had taken a look at the body of Kurt Cobain, he was found to be with a high concentration of heroin and traces of diazepam, also known as Ativan. His body was found and had been there for 3 days. This is going to be a continuously important aspect of the story, because 3 days of Kurt Cobain laying in a specific individual spot may raise some suspicion about what we're talking about, because of the fact that we do not see Kurt Cobain in the other documents laying there for 3 days. We don't see anything even similar. If somebody were to provide any kind of contextual analysis, they would say Kurt Cobain would have been found within day 1 or day 2. We see a suicide note, of course, left behind. Some experts in writing have said that maybe this wasn't an actual suicide note written by Kurt Cobain. This has driven the conspiracy theories wild, with people saying, well, maybe Kurt Cobain wasn't actually suicidal, but in fact had been murdered by somebody else, funded by somebody else. And I do not believe that is the case. And within the suicide note, we actually have a actual transcript, which is very helpful. It's his to Boda, which is allegedly Kurt Cobain's imaginary friend as a child. And he's just speaking from the tongue of an experienced simpleton who obviously would rather be emasculated, infantile, complainee. He's degrading himself in the first sentence of this actual suicide note. And based on his writing, I would say it's not far enough to be a actual somebody who's trying to make it look like it's Kurt Cobain, but it's not. They say the FBI says with questions in this element. They say with question marks. They say Seattle home the day before, when surveillance failed to locate Cobain, Grant flew to Seattle. He and one of Cobain's friends began searching for the missing rock star, eventually ending up at Cobain's house. Why eventually ending up there? Why wouldn't you go there the first thing? And if Cobain is Cobain and it's Cobain's house, why wouldn't you go to Cobain's house? Right? But Grant claims the entire house was searched. Some 20 hours later, Grant says he and Cobain's friends searched for the house again. This time they found a note left for Cobain by the male nanny. The garage, known as the greenhouse, is the only place Grant says he and Cobain's friends did not check. This is where he was found dead. Kurt Cobain did not commit suicide? ? If so, was his death accidental? ? Or was Cobain murdered? ? The Seattle police are confident they made the correct ruling. This is the FBI document. Why would you include question marks in the FBI document if you're really not sure what had occurred. I believe Kurt Cobain commits suicide with a shotgun, high on heroin, on that day in 1994. I believe in the official narrative that Kurt Cobain did commit suicide, but many people do not. Many people believe in there's some sort of conspiracy with Courtney Love, but I believe, based on my evidence, that Kurt Cobain did commit suicide based on his life, based on the pain, based on the evidence in the weapons, in the music, that Kurt Cobain did murder himself in 1994 with a shotgun to the brain, high on heroin and aspirin. Can't get high on aspirin, but you get the point. That's how I'm going to wrap up tonight's Redacted Files. We don't always end happy, but we end with the truth.